Welcome everybody. We are so excited to have you here. This is Danny from Skillshare, and I'm here with Lisa Bardot. Lisa, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited for this lesson today to show people about Procreate Dreams.
Me too. I'm stoked to get this going. Welcome wherever you are. Maybe share in the chat where you're joining us from. We're so excited that you're here to learn about Procreate Dreams. And we're going to get right into it. But before we do, I just wanted to share a little bit about what we're going to be covering today. So just so you know where you are at, this is Animate Your Illustrations with Procreate Dreams. And we're joined here today with Lisa Bardot, who is an amazing top teacher on Skillshare, who's already gotten a good amount of experience in Procreate Dreams, is gonna kind of dive into her process and show us how to get started. So what to expect today? We're going to start off with downloading an illustration template in Procreate. I'll share a QR code to that in a second so that you can follow along. And then you're going to explore the app interface of Procreate Dreams with step-by-step instructions from Lisa. So you can really just learn the lay of the land and learn how you might be able to apply some of these animation tricks to your own creative process. And throughout the session, we're here live with you, so feel free to drop your questions and share your excitement and thoughts in the chat. There are a lot of us here today. There are almost 1,000 of us right now, and likely more joining. So we may not be able to get to everybody's questions, but we're going to keep track of them. We'll get to some of your questions. And also, if you have answers to some folks' questions, feel free to share in the chat. We're here as a creative community, so we'll be able to learn from one another. And the last thing I'll share is that Lisa has a lot to get through today. So there may be some moments where maybe you get stuck or you're falling behind. Don't worry about it. We're going to share a recording to this so you can go back and follow along later on so you can catch up. So, go along for the ride. If you get stuck, just know there's a recording, and yeah, you'll have everything you need to learn after the session as well. So before we get started, want to make sure that you all download the illustration file for this session. So you can go ahead and use this QR code now on your phone to get the Procreate, or on your iPad to get the Procreate file up, or just type in this short link here. And we'll also drop this link into the chat for you. And if you want to follow along, this is your ticket to do so. So definitely download this link to the Procreate file so you can get right in. Lisa, any specific notes on using this, getting this up and running?
Yeah, so that's a Procreate file. So when you download it, you should just be able to tap it and it should import into your Procreate app, not the Procreate Dreams app, but the Procreate app, because I'm going to be teaching you how to set it up and import it into Procreate Dreams. So we want to get it into your Procreate app.
And I think with that, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hopefully you've got it. I will excitedly pass the mic over to you, Lisa, to take us through what you have planned today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Daniel. Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa Bardot, and I'm really excited about today's lesson. First, just a little bit about me. I am an illustration artist, teacher, and I love all things creative. And I've been working in Procreate Dreams now for several months during the development process as a beta tester. So I've gotten a lot of experience working in this app. Procreate actually invited me to do a demo for them in London on the app when they did their big keynote announcement, which was super exciting and a lot of fun. It was just really cool to see everybody's excitement about the new app. So I am really excited to teach you guys all my little tips and tricks today. We're going to be learning how to take our Procreate work, because many of you guys might be familiar with Procreate and have a lot of work in there, how to take your Procreate work and get it ready to animate in Procreate Dreams. And then I'm going to teach you how to create some really easy, simple animations. And all of this is going to be really new, but I'm going to try and explain everything really slow so you guys can follow along and let it all sink in. And then of course, if you want to go back and watch the replay, you can do that as well. All right. So let's go ahead and switch my view down to my iPad here. Okay. All right, so here I am in Procreate, and this is the file that I've given you guys. So I drew this cute little kind of like desk scene, and I made it all in Procreate. So what I'm going to do first, and this first little part's not really a follow along. I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about the process of getting your files ready to bring into Procreate Dreams to animate. Your guys' file is already set up, so don't worry about that. Let me open up my layers panel. So this is my original file with all my many layers that I used to create artwork. If you're used to working in Procreate, you might use a lot of layers to separate out different parts of your artwork in order to aid you in the art creation process. But this is not going to work for animation, because when we bring this into Procreate Dreams, all of these layers are going to become tracks. And don't worry about that. We'll talk about that in a little bit, so don't let it get you confused. But what I want to talk to you about is some of the things that you're going to want to do to set your Procreate files, again, not to follow along, but to set your Procreate files up for animation in Procreate Dreams. So the first thing that you do when you're wanting to get this ready is go out to the gallery view. And I always make a duplicate of my file before I start changing things. So I always have the original version. So I would just swipe to the left, choose duplicate, and then I would rename the duplicate something like animation or something, just so I know that's the one that I've made all these changes to. Okay, so then I would start to think about what kind of motions I want to make. Like maybe I want to make the plants, like little leaves of my plants move. I can make the clock turn. I'm going to make the little frame kind of move. I'm going to do some stuff with the cat. So you think through what kind of stuff do I want to make move? And whatever you want to move independently of something else, you want to have that on its own layer. So I would start, first of all, just merging things together. Like all these layers here are all for this little photo frame. So I could merge all those together. Like I have these layers for the chair and I could merge all those together. I have all these books right here and I can merge those together. And I'm not going to go through and do it all, but you kind of get the idea. I'm starting to merge anything together that I'm not going to animate separately from other things. And then for something like the plant, which is on this layer right here, it's really tiny, but that's all these leaves. And if I want them all to move separately from one another, I would need to put them on separate layers. So I could always go up to my selection tool and just start selecting around them. And then I can cut and paste onto a new layer. So I would go through and just cut and paste all the leaves onto their own layers and things like that. So those are kind of some things that you would want to do. And I'll show you the finished file so that you can kind of see the finished version. Okay, so it's this one here. This is the file that you guys have now. So if you haven't already, go ahead and open that up in Procreate. And your layers should look something like this. And I've labeled them all. I'm not usually a layer labeler, but I did it for you guys. So I have a lot of the things that I'm going to animate separated out. Here's all my leaves separated out because each one's going to move by themselves. The cat tail is going to move by itself. The cat body is also going to be moving. I'll have to show you the finished version so you can see, and then I have a little mouse where here's my mouse. His head's going to move and the tail's going to move. So those are all separated out. Okay, so just to kind of, and then the clock. And then for the clock, I have the minute hand and the hour hand. So just kind of look through the layers just to kind of see that they're there. You don't have to do anything to them. But this is how I would set up that particular illustration to bring into Procreate Dreams. So all of that stuff I would do here in Procreate just to get it prepped and ready. Okay, and now I'm going to show you how to import a Procreate file into Procreate Dreams. So let's go into Procreate Dreams now. So I'm going to go into Procreate Dreams, and you're going to start by creating a new movie. When you're in Procreate Dreams, the first thing that you're going to see is the theater, and this is where all your movies are. And if you tap this plus sign in the upper right, you can create a new movie. You can swipe up and down, and you'll see some different templates. It doesn't really matter which one you choose for today because we're going to end up changing the size of it. But a couple things I wanted you to see in here. These three little dots will give you some options to adjust your default frames per second and duration of your movie. And this is this will apply to all the templates. So I don't usually like to mess with that. I'm going to show you a different way to change that. So you don't have to worry about changing that yet. And then if you tap 4K, you've got some different resolutions. We're just going to stick to 4K for now because we're going to end up changing things. Okay, so go ahead and find one of these. I'm going to choose the screen size one, and then we're going to tap empty right here. And this is going to bring us into the Procreate Dreams interface. And I'm just going to give you a quick little tour before we import our Procreate file. So Procreate Dreams is divided into 3 parts. Up here, this is our stage. Actually, this box, the white box, is our stage. And the area around it is our backstage. You can have elements off into the backstage and then bring them into frame. There's a little time code right here, which has some options if you tap it for onion skins. We're not going to worry about that today. You can also set the background color. Again, we're not going to do anything. I'm just going to show you that it's there. So that's the stage. And then in the middle, this is your toolbar. And starting over on the left, we have these little rectangles. And if you tap that, that'll take you back out to your gallery view. Or sorry, I'm used to saying that for Procreate. The theater, that's what it's called in Procreate Dreams. And while we're here, we're just gonna name our movie real quick. So we're gonna tap and hold on the movie that we just created, which is this blank one here. And then we get a little menu, and we're gonna choose rename. And I'm just gonna call it Cozy Corner. Oops. If I could spell it right, that'd be good. Okay, Cozy Corner, and then tap done. Okay, so there we have it there. And then we're just gonna tap to get back into it. Okay, so I already have one named Cozy Corner. That's why this one's Cozy Corner 1. So now the next thing that I wanna show you here, which is what I just pointed to, is the movie name. And there are some options if you tap on that. So go ahead and tap on that. And this is our movie settings. And there's different options here, like properties, and you kind of tap through and see. We're not going to worry too much about any of this for now, but I do want to show you your share options, which are here. And I'll try to show you that again at the end. But this is where you would go to export your video. And then there's preferences and things. But let's go to properties. So go ahead and tap up to properties. And we're going to set our movie duration here. And when we set it here versus where I showed you in the theater, this just applies to this movie. If you set it in the theater, it applies to all your future movies that you open. So we're going to set our duration to 15 seconds. You can just tap duration and then tap in 15 seconds like there. And then the other thing that's really important that we need to do if you're animating your Procreate work is it's helpful to set your width and height of your movie to match whatever size your Procreate artwork is. So I'm going to show you how to find that in Procreate real quick. I'm going to go back to Procreate. And if you have your movie, or sorry, your artwork open, you can go to the Actions menu, Canvas, and go to Canvas Information, and then go to Dimensions. And you can see the size right here, the pixel width and size. This is a pretty common size for me to use, 2800 by 3500 pixels. So that's the size that I'm going to set up my movie to be. So that way it fits within the movie frame. So I'm going to go back to Procreate Dreams now, and I can type in that size, which was 2800 by 3500 pixels. Okay. And then once you've set your duration to 15 and your width to 2800 and height to 3500, you can go ahead and tap done. And so now you can see the size of that is the same, well, at least it's the same ratio as our Procreate file. So some other things on this toolbar over here. This is our play button. So that would do playback. This little circle is the performing button, which we're going to use quite a lot in this tutorial. And that records your movements in real time. I'll talk more about it once we get to that stage, but that's performing. This little rectangles here, this is the timeline edit button. So that lets you select tracks so that you can group them or duplicate them and that sort of thing. And then this little squiggle is your draw and paint mode. You can actually tap that to see what it does. And this brings you into draw and paint mode. And you might see some familiar tools there. We're not going to draw anything in this tutorial, but it has pretty much like the right-hand side of Procreate. So it has all those brushes, eraser, layers, things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and tap done to get out of that. And then we have the plus sign, which is add. And in there, we can add tracks, photos, videos, text, files. You can also import audio, which I'll show you at the end, how to kind of make this even better with audio. But just know that that's there. And then this area down here is our timeline. And this is where we're going to be doing all of the setting up all the animations and doing all that kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and show you now how to import your Procreate file here. So I'm going to go back to Procreate. And I'm going to exit to the gallery view. And now I'm going to drag and drop this onto my timeline area. There's a couple ways to do it, but this is the way that I like to do it. Put my pencil down. Okay, so you grab your file and drag it out like this. And then I like to take my other finger and pull my dock up. And then I can tap on the Procreate Dreams logo and then just drop this into the timeline like that. And then it will import and it will appear here. You can also use side-by-side view to do that, so I'll show you that way too. So you can tap these little 3 dots right there, go to split view, choose Procreate Dreams, and then you have side-by-side. So if like holding and dragging isn't working for you, you can just do it this way. So just drag and drop it into the timeline area like that. Okay, and then I'm just going to close this. All right. So now you'll see in our timeline area, something has appeared. And this is a piece of content, which is held inside of a track. I'll talk more about that in a second. But let me show you how you can get all of your layers, because right now it's just one thing. So to do that, you're going to tap and hold on this, and you'll get a popover menu. And you'll see an option that says convert layers to tracks. That's the key here. So convert layers to tracks from this menu. And now you'll see, instead of saying drawing right there, it says group. And there's a little caret icon. And we can tap that. And inside there, we can see all of our many layers. All of them have now become tracks. And a track is basically these kind of like horizontal spaces. And we can fill our tracks with pieces of content. This is a piece of content and it's held inside of a track. So just a little bit of terminology for you. Okay. So I'm going to open that back up actually, because I want to explain a couple things about using gestures. So you already saw me kind of like move things around like this and do like a pinch and zoom. If you use Procreate, you're probably really used to that gesture. But there are a couple other really important ones, and let me show you those. So if you take 3 fingers and you scroll, let's see, horizontally, like this is going to increase your time scale. So this is like a little bit of time, and then this is a lot of time. You can also take 3 fingers and go vertically, and that's going to adjust your vertical scale. And that just helps it like be easier to kind of zoom in on a single track to see things a little bit better. So go ahead and practice with going like vertically and horizontally with 3 fingers. Okay. And then you can also do a quick pinch, and that will zoom out and show your entire timeline and all your tracks. And it's also good to note that you can also zoom around up here in the stage in the same way, just kind of pinch and zoom, or do a quick pinch to zoom all the way back out. All right, so now I'm going to go back up to the top where it says group, and automatically it puts it into a group. Your Procreate file puts all those tracks into a group, but I like to just ungroup them right off the bat. So you can ungroup something by just tapping and holding on the track here that says group. Just tap and hold and choose ungroup. And now everything is just not contained within that group. I think it just makes it a little bit easier. So now you can see all my layers, and we are ready to start animating the different elements of our scene. So I think I'm going to go ahead and, well, no, I'm going to zoom in over here. So we're going to start by animating our little plant here. So I'm going to scroll down until I find this track that has the leaf group. So you can see a little thumbnail. So we're going to open up our leaf group, just tap little caret, and inside we have our 4 little leaves that I had separated out onto different layers. Now they're separate tracks, so we can animate each one individually. And we're going to do a little animation where we have the leaves kind of like rotating and swaying around like that. So let's find leaf number 1. And the next thing I also want to show you is if you tap, you'll see this little red kind of shape with a little, like one of those clapboards inside. And this is called the playhead. And this is how you would skim through your animation and create keyframes and do a whole bunch of different things. But I just want you to know that that's there because we want to place it here at the beginning of our timeline. So go ahead and place it at the beginning of the timeline on the track that's called leaf 1. Okay. And so I want to, like I said, we're going to rotate this. Let me show you how to rotate something. You might have seen that little bounding box. If you don't see it, you can always tap the artwork. And now I've got this red bounding box around it. And we use this to apply all kinds of transformations and things like that. But if you tap one of the corners here, you'll see this little curved line. You can tap any of the corners and you'll see this little curved line. I refer to it as the noodle, but that's not what Procreate actually calls it. That's just what I call it. It's the rotation node. So you would tap the corner node and then grab your little rotation node. I'm going too slow here. Tap it, and then you can rotate like that. And you'll notice as I'm doing that, it's not rotating in a way that would look natural for this plant. So I'm going to undo that. What we need to do is we need to edit our anchor point so that it will rotate around right here because we want it to be kind of like attached into the dirt that we assume is in this pot. So let me tap again on this leaf, and then we see this little 3 dots. We're going to tap that. Okay, so these little 3 dots, and you can tap edit anchor. And anchor points are super useful for controlling movement as you're animating. So now you can see this little plus sign, which is the point that it was rotating it around. That's why it was kind of doing that. But if we move this to like right here, like it's stuck there in the dirt, and then tap done. Now, if I were to rotate it, I'll do it right here. You can see now that it's rotating in a more appropriate way for this particular subject. I'm going to tap undo to kind of reset that back. And now we're going to actually animate it. So I was just kind of showing you how it rotates. Now we're going to animate it. So we're going to be using the performing feature to do all the animations on this plant. So make sure you're all zoomed up there. And do we need to see the anchor point thing again? I just want to make sure people got that part. Doing
Lisa,
okay?
some people were having some issues with just getting like the canvas size correct.
Oh, yeah, I can show you that again.
Yeah, just do it.
So
Yeah.
to change your movie size, so this size, you can go up here to your name, so whatever you named it, you can tap that name. And then you go to properties and see under width and height, you can type in your whatever size you want it to be. So in our case, to match our Procreate artwork, it's 2800 by 3500 pixels. Okay. All right, so hopefully that helps. Any other questions before we get to like animating this plant?
A few people were just wondering about the undo function. Like, is there a quick shortcut for the undo?
Yes, sorry, I should have said that. If you have worked in Procreate before, you probably are used to doing that. But if you're new to Procreate, it's a 2-finger tap to undo. I'm not going to undo because I don't want to mess up what I've done. And then a 3-finger tap to redo. So if you ever need to undo anything, you just do 2-finger tap anywhere, or you can do a 3-finger tap to redo. Okay, so just to kind of review what we just did, we're working on our plant over here. We're in the leaf group. We've got the group opened up so we can see all of our 4 leaves. And then we're on the track that says leaf 1. And we just edited our anchor point. So it was, again, tap these 3 dots, edit anchor, and then we put this little plus sign right down here. So that's where we're at right now. And now I'm going to show you how to animate this using the performing feature. I'm going to tap done. And again, make sure your playhead is at the beginning of your timeline. And this little circle here is the performing button. So if you tap that, you'll see it changes into a like red square, like it's recording. And then it says ready. Now it's not actually going to record anything until basically I put my pencil on the screen and start moving things around. So we're going to start rotating this, and we're just going to do little motions. And you'll see that our playhead will start to scroll across as we go all the way, as time passes, essentially. It's just time going across. Okay, so I'm gonna trying to make sure my hand doesn't get in the way for you guys. So I'll tap this node here, grab the little rotate node, the little curved line, and then just do little motions like this. Hoping my hand's not in the way for you guys. And you can see down here, it's going all the way across. And we're just going to keep doing little circles like this, draw little circles until it gets to the end. Okay? And now if I were to move my playhead back, you can already see the animation happening, but I'll move it to the beginning and then I'll press play. And there's all my little circles. Now it's moving. So it just captures whatever movement that you kind of like act out. It captures that in real time. So we'll get to the end and it will keep repeating, but I'm going to go ahead and tap pause because I want to show you one really important thing when it comes to performing like right off the bat. And that's here under modify. So go ahead and tap modify up here in the upper right. And we have this option for motion filtering. And motion filtering just basically, it smooths out your motion. So if this was turned up really high, whatever motion you just draw would just try and like smooth it out. And if you have it down all the way, it's going to capture your movements more accurately to how you did them. So for this, I think I'm just going to keep it all the way down. So I just want to make sure you guys didn't have it all the way up because then it might look super weird. Like if I have it up, if I have it all the way up, it barely moves at all. So I'm just going to keep it all the way down. Okay. And then to get out of this menu, don't tap done. Well, actually, you can go ahead and tap done. Just kidding. Go ahead and tap done. And that done takes us out of performing mode. That's why I was, yeah. So you can see now that this circle is back to a circle. It's not that that little red square. So now we're out of performing mode. It also doesn't say ready. So just something to keep in mind. We're getting in and out of performing mode. Okay, so we have performed an animation on one of these leaves, and now we're going to do the same thing for the other 3 leaves. So we're going to go down to leaf 2. So now here I am on leaf 2, and I'm going to put my playhead at the beginning. And of course, remember, we need to set up our anchor point so that it rotates from right here. So I'm going to tap it, tap the little 3 dots, and then we're going to go to edit anchor. And then we can move this little plus sign down into the pot, like right there. So it's right there now. And when I have a lot of things that I'm going to be animating, like I have 3 of these to do, it's from a workflow perspective, it's easier to just set up all your anchor points right all in one go. So I'm going to go down here in the timeline and just tap onto leaf 3, which is right here. And now you can see there's a box around that leaf, and I can move my anchor point down for that one. So I just did leaf 3 and move the anchor point down. And then I can also do leaf 4. And then I can move that down. So it just makes things go faster. So you're not like perform, change the anchor, perform, change the anchor. It's just like assembly line fashion, essentially. So now I've got all my anchor points set up for these 3 leaves and I can start animating them. So you'll get some good practice doing this same animation. So we're going to go on leaf 2 and move our playhead to the beginning of the timeline. We need to tap done so that we can get out of this edit anchor point mode. So go ahead and tap done. And now you can see our bounding box. So we're out of that mode now. And we're going to go back into performing mode so that we can animate this one. So again, it's this little circle here. You can tap that. And then we're going to tap one of the corners, find our rotate node, this little line. And then I'm just drawing little tiny circles. I'm trying to make it a little different than my other leaf, just kind of for, visual interest. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw little tiny circles until I get to the end of the timeline. And now I'm at the end, and I'm going to take 3 fingers and zoom back up so I can see it a little bit better. Okay, oops, I think I undid it accidentally. There we go. I accidentally undid it. So I just did a 3-finger tap to redo. And now those are both moving. You can play and see. Okay. We're going to do the same thing for these other 2. So I'm going to go to leaf 3. And now, since my anchor point's already set up, I can just go ahead and start rotating that. So put my playhead at the beginning of the timeline. Oops, put it there. And then tap the corner, grab the little rotate node, this little line, and now we're going to draw some circles until our timeline gets all the way till the end. And I like doing little circles for this kind of like swaying motion because it kind of like, if you were to go like this, it might look really choppy swaying back and forth. But if you draw little circles, you get nice, smooth, like swaying kind of motion. Okay, so I'm going to zoom back up with 3 fingers to get to my next track, leaf 4. move my playhead to the beginning, and then we're going to tap the corner node again, grab our rotation node, and animate our last one. And you can already like see them all interacting together. That's what I love about performing, is like you can see what's happening, you know, as you're doing it. So you can kind of like time your movements to go with other movements or sound or other things like that. So now we can go ahead and play that all back. And there's a really quick way that you can do it. I'm gonna zoom out so you can see the whole thing. If you take your playhead and then just like flick it back this way, it'll go to the beginning of your timeline and start it playing. So like that. And now look at our little leaves. I use this type of animation for so many things, like making things rotate around an anchor point. It's just a really easy way to add movement to things. And we're actually going to use that same exact type of animation to animate our next little bit of this illustration. So let's zoom our timeline up, actually zoom our stage over, and we're going to focus in on our little wall frame here with the dog in it. So let's find that. I think it's up here. Just scroll until you find the one called wall art. So there it is right there. And let's zoom in so we have the whole, or zoom out so we have the whole track visible. And then I like to take 3 fingers and zoom up. So now it's kind of just taking up more space. And we're going to animate that in the exact same way. So we're going to tap this track, this piece of content. And we're going to change our anchor point. We already know we need to do that because we want it to rotate kind of around the little nail. It's going to be like swinging on the nail. And by default, the anchor point's like always in the middle. So let's tap the little 3 dots here and go to edit anchor. And then we've got our little anchor here and we can put it right on the nail right there. Okay. So edit your anchor and put your anchor right there on the nail. And then you can tap done. And now we can animate that in the same way. So we're going to tap the performing button, and we're going to tap the corner, and we're going to grab this rotation node and just do little, I'm going to try and get it really slow if I can. Little motions back and forth. I'm almost doing like a figure 8 kind of motion with my pencil. Really small, just really subtle movements. There we go. Okay, got all the way across. I'm gonna zoom back in with 3 fingers going up. And there's our little frame just kind of swaying back and forth. I think when you're animating like an illustration, it's nice to add really just like subtle movements. Nothing has to be like crazy. So that's a really fun little one. Okay, so we've gotten a lot of practice with editing anchor points and then doing an animation where we apply a rotation. Next, I'm going to show you how to create animation through keyframing. But before we do that, I want to just check in, see if any questions have popped up or anything. How are we doing, Daniel?
Doing good. Yeah, folks are really enjoying this. There's been some questions about like the speed of your animation, if there are ways to speed it up or slow it down after you've done the performing, or just in general how to change the speed of the animation.
Yeah, there's not a way to speed it up afterwards, but it's really easy if you didn't like the speed at which you did something. You can always just, let me see. I'm trying to see if I can. Well, you can just undo it and try it again faster. Like because performing is so in real time, it's just going to capture however you do that, however fast you do the movements. So if you're like, oh, I didn't like how fast that was, I want to do it faster or slower, just undo, move your playhead back to the starting position and perform it again.
Cool.
Maybe speed will be coming in the future. If you guys ever, want to give Procreate feedback about features you'd like to see, like definitely hit them up on their website. They listen to people, they listen to artists, they want to make it better for you guys. So,
Amazing.
okay.
And people mentioned changing frame rate too. I don't know if that's something you've explored as well.
Frames per second.
Yeah.
Yes. So that can be found here in the movie name, under properties. And you can tap, right now it's set to 24, and you can tap that and choose other frame rates. For general purpose, I like to use 24 frames per second. It's just nice and smooth. But you can play around with, other things if you're familiar with this. If you go down to 12, it'll make it like, oh, I'm not going to do that. If you go down to 12, it'll make it look kind of like stop motion-y, and you'll have like, it'll be like kind of choppy, but that could be a look. So yeah, that's where you can find that option, but we're going to keep it at 24. Okay.
Awesome.
So I'm going to get out of performing mode now. I'm going to tap this little square, and now it's back to a circle. I'm out of performing mode, and we're going to focus in on our clock here. And we're going to be animating this using keyframes. So we just animated in there's 3 main ways to animate in Procreate Dreams. One of them is performing, which I just showed you. Another way is through keyframes, which I'll talk about in just a sec. And then the third way is frame by frame animation. So if you're familiar with Procreate's animation tools, that's all frame by frame. It's where you draw each thing 1 frame at a time. But let's talk about keyframes. If you're unfamiliar with keyframes, basically, keyframes say like what state your content is in at different parts of your timeline. So actually, if you look here at this wall art, we have this track down here, and there's all these little icons in that. And these are keyframes. And so let's just zoom in on these. You don't need to like tap on anything, but I just want to show you. So basically at this keyframe, oops, I zoomed in too far. One moment, sorry guys. Trying to find it now. Okay, so keyframes. So at this keyframe, it's saying like, okay, at this point in the timeline, my content looks like this, or it's in this position, or it's in this state. And then at this point in the timeline, it's in this position, or this size, or this state, or whatever changes have been made. And then the app will smoothly transition between the two keyframes. So that's kind of how keyframes work. When you're doing performing, it automatically makes those keyframes for you, which is nice, but I'm going to show you how to create them manually with this clock. So let's go down to the clock hands group. I'm going to zoom all the way out. Quick pinch, zoom all the way out, and then take, oops. And then zoom all the way up. Okay, there's my clock hands group. I'm going to open that up. And when I was setting up my Procreate file, I separated out the minute hand and the hour hand, and then the like little dot that's in the center. That's not going to move, but the minute hand and the hour hand are going to move. So let's start with our hour hand. So go ahead and find the track called hour hand. And we're going to tap it so that it's selected, and we can have our little playhead on it. Okay, and we're going to move this playhead so that it's at the end of the timeline now. So place it at the end. And I haven't shown you guys this yet, but you can tap the playhead, and this is going to bring up the action menu. This is going to help you create your keyframes. So tap the playhead, it should say action, and then we're going to tap move. So go ahead and tap move. And then we're going to choose move and scale. And as soon as I tap this, you're going to see something pop up right underneath our little piece of content here. So tap move and scale. And now you can see this kind of like gray bar with these icons inside of it. And this is a keyframe track. And these icons are our keyframes. So this is one keyframe, and this is the other keyframe. And they're both set to be the same thing, like they're both exactly the same. So we're going to edit this second keyframe to do something different. And then the app will smoothly transition from this one to this one. So we're going to tap this keyframe. If your playhead's on it, just scoot it over. We're going to tap this keyframe here at the end. And we've got some options here where we can type some things in, but we're going to focus in on rotate. So tap right here where it says 0 in rotate. And we can type in a number, and this is in degrees. So, oh, I forgot something. Maybe you guys caught this. Okay, I'm going to keep going. We're going to type in 360. 360 degrees is one full rotation. So it will end up getting back to the place that it started, but I have a problem already. Oops, what's going on? Okay, there's, you can see my problem. I just realized this as I was doing it. I forgot to change the anchor point. So I'm kind of glad I messed up, because this shows you like what happens if you don't change the anchor point. It kind of just rotates around the middle. So let me just go ahead and do that. We can tap the little 3 dots, edit the anchor point, and then move it there. And then tap done. So go ahead and edit your anchor point. And now, there we go. Now it's rotating around very slowly. You can actually edit, like how if you want something to go faster, there's a couple ways that you could do it, but I want to show you one of the ways. So it takes a lot of time to get from point A to point B in our timeline for it to change from this state to this state. You can move the keyframes closer together and it will happen faster. So you can just grab the keyframe and put it a lot closer here on the timeline. And now it will happen much faster. So it did that full rotation. Another thing that you might notice is it like starts slow and then it kind of, zoom in here, play that back. Okay, so it starts slow, gets fast, and then starts slow again. And if you're doing manual keyframing, there's something to consider called easing. So you can see it kind of like starts slow, gets fast, and then ends slow. You can change that. So in between our two little keyframes, in our keyframe track, somewhere here in the gray area, you can tap and hold it, and then you can choose Set All Easings. Set all easings. And then we've got some options here. Right now it's set to ease in and out. So it like eases in and then it goes fast and then it eases out. So that's ease in and out. But we're going to choose linear. Linear is just like a constant state of motion. It doesn't slow down or do anything at all. So go ahead and choose linear. And now if I were to play this back, now it just goes around in a constant speed.
Hey Lisa, a few people were wondering how to make it go clockwise instead of
Oh,
counterclockwise.
yes,
The
that's a
direction.
great question. I have that on my notes.
Mhm.
But that's really easy to do actually. So if you go to your second keyframe here and tap it, go to rotate again, we have positive and negative. So you want to just tap negative and now it will go the correct way. There you go.
Super cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I was getting to it. Okay. Okay, so now we just did linear easing. So now it's just going at a steady rate. And I'm gonna actually move this keyframe back to the end because I actually do want this to go pretty slow since it's the hour hand. So it's just gonna slowly go around and it will end up right back where it starts. Like when it gets to the end, watch it cycle and then it'll just kind of keep going. But for our minute hand, we wanted to go a little bit faster. So we're gonna do the same exact thing for the minute hand. So you get to kind of repeat all of that. So we'll start, or so go ahead and find your track with the minute hand and tap it so it's selected. We're going to start by setting our anchor point this time. So I can tap the minute hand, tap the little three dots here, and go to edit anchor, and then put it right here in the middle of the clock. Okay, so now it will rotate around that, and then tap done. And then I'm going to go to the end of my timeline, so move the playhead to the end, and then tap the playhead, go to move and scale. And then I'm just going to move the playhead out of the way so that I can tap my keyframe. And then this time we're going to type in a higher number. So that way it will go faster. It will do multiple rotations. So if I type in 1080, 1080 is actually 360 times 3. So it's going to do 3 full rotations and then finish right where it started again. And then of course, we're going to hit negative so it goes the right way. Okay, so now let's go ahead and play that back. So we have, and this is not, totally scientifically accurate for speed, but the minute's moving faster than the hour, which is what we want to do. Okay. So that is manual keyframing. You don't have to follow this part, but I did want to show you. You can also add keyframes by moving your playhead, and you can add keyframes that way if you need to, but we don't need to for this one. I just want to show you that. And there's plenty more. There's so much more, but that's just kind of like getting you started. Okay. So that's our clock. I'm going to go ahead and just close the clock group again.
People
Okay.
were, if you have a moment to just show again really quickly how to just get to the keyframe part
Yeah.
of the app and set up the first keyframe for a few
Yeah.
people who missed that.
I will show you on this lamp head. I'm not going to end up animating this lamp head, but I'll just show you here. So you can put your keyhead or put your playhead wherever you want and then tap the playhead. And then you go to move and you can choose whichever one of these you want. We've been doing move and scale. And then that creates your keyframes down here. So that's
Awesome.
how you can create a keyframe.
Cool. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, I want to show you our little kitty. I'm going to start with the body. I want to make the cat's tail rotate, and it's in the same way that we've done all the other kind of rotates where we set an anchor point and then we just kind of like draw it doing that. But let's do the body because this is something different. So I'm going to go ahead and find the cat body track. So go ahead and find that. Then we can tap it to select it. So we're in the cat body. And we're going to do a perform for this one, but we're going to do it in a little bit different way. We're actually going to use the warp transformation. So let's go ahead and tap our performing mode right here. And then we're going to move our playhead to the beginning. And instead of moving it, we're actually going to tap into our playhead. So tap the playhead. And then we're going to tap move. And this time we're going to choose warp. So we got that by tapping the playhead. I'll do it one more time. Tap, move, and we're going to choose warp. Okay, and when you tap warp, you'll see this kind of like grid appears. This is called a mesh grid. And you can grab anywhere inside this and kind of like move things around like that, or you can grab the nodes and you can do all kinds of things. That's not what we want to do with this cat. So I'm going to undo until I get back. So again, I'll put my playhead at the beginning. So we're going to make the cat kind of like breathe a little bit. So we're going to grab inside this rectangle, the one that's kind of like top middle. And I'm going to try and get my hand out of the way for you guys and just do like little up and down, like breathing motions. Actually, probably slower than that. And I wanted to show you that if you lift your pencil off in the middle of a perform, it just pauses, it just stops. And then you can just start again. So that's an important thing to know. I'm probably going too fast, but that's okay. You can always, like I said, you can undo and just try again, but I just want to show you that. It's a little wobbly because my hand's a little shaky right now, but you kind of get the idea. You just do like a really like subtle up and down motion to kind of make the cat look like it's breathing.
So fun.
Yeah, that one's a really fun one. There's so many cool things you can do with warp to kind of like do these like organic kind of changes, you know, in animation. It's really a lot of fun. Oops, I moved it. Okay, I'm gonna do the cattail real quick, just so it's moving, but you guys can always come back and do that later if you want. So I'm on the layer with the track with the cattail, and then I'm gonna tap my corner, little 3 dots, edit anchor, put it there, right there where the cattail attaches to the body, and then you can perform it. Just kind of going back and forth, all the way across. Well, if I was zoomed out, you'd see the cat's body breathing while I'm doing this, but I'll zoom out in a second. Okay. So that's the same technique that we've done for all the other kind of rotates. There's our cat. My cat's having a bad dream. It's breathing pretty heavy. Okay. All right. I want to show you a couple other things before we run out of time today. But this right here, this lamp. So movements and transformations aren't the only things that you can animate or perform. I'm going to put my playhead on this lamp light layer. And you might notice that it's like brown in here. I actually have a blend mode set up. If you're not familiar with blend modes, I'm not going to get into it, but that's what kind of makes it like transparent and glowy. And I have that set up in my Procreate file, and blend modes actually carry over into Procreate Dreams, which is really nice. So don't worry about that if you don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, so we're going to put our playhead at the beginning, and I'm going to perform this too. So I'm going to tap performing, and then I'm going to tap my playhead. And I'm going to go here to filter. So we just went to move. Now we're going to go to filter. And we have all these live filters that you can apply to your content to create animations. And you can keyframe them, you can perform them, you can do all kinds of fun stuff, but we're going to perform. I'm going to go to opacity. And now, because I'm in performing mode, as soon as I start moving the slider, it's going to start recording my movements. So watch my light. Ooh, I can perform it getting dim. If I want to like make it flicker, I can do that. There we go. So that's another thing that you can play with. That's fun. Whoop. So however flickering you want to make your light, you can do that. And then you can go get out of that. Okay, so that's another thing that you can do. And there's, oh, question?
Yeah, there's a few people were asking, since like the animation piece is super fun, if it's possible to copy and paste the movement or the animation to another layer that people might be working on, or do you have to just re-perform it or recreate
Yeah,
the
you would need to re-perform it. Right now, there's not a way to copy paste keyframes or animation.
Okay.
But you can like duplicate tracks and you can duplicate layers. So there's a lot of things that you can duplicate. I'm just not doing that in this particular piece. Okay, so now we're kind of getting a little short on time, but our last little thing that we would be animating in this piece is the little mouse. So I think I'm just gonna demo it. So I'm not gonna go super slow for this, but you can always come back and watch this again. Okay, so I'm gonna find my mouse group. Here it is. I'm going to open that up. Inside that, I've got my mouse body, the mouse tail, and the mouse head. So for this mouse, I thought it'd be fun to like make the head kind of bounce up and down and then the tail kind of go back and forth. And again, that's all the same stuff that we've been doing. I'm telling you, I use the like anchor point rotation all the time. I use it for so many different things. So I'm just going to put my anchor point down here at the bottom where the tail connects to the body. And then I'm also going to set up the head as well. So, whoops, mouse head. I'm going to have it rotate from right here, kind of where the head connects to the body. Now that my anchor points are set up, I can just tap done. And then I'm going to animate, I'll do the tail first. Okay, so same thing. I'm going to tap the corner and just whatever you want the mouse's tail to do. You can make it move big if you want, or little, or however. Oh, now you can see I've made a mistake here. I did not get into performing mode before I started moving that. That's why my playhead's not going across. Sometimes it's good to see mistakes because that might happen to you too. We're going to tap into performing. And now if I start moving, it'll capture. See, now it's like going across. There we go. So you would animate your little mouse tail however you want, big movements, little movements. Okay. And then I want to do the head. So I'm going to go to that track and I'll perform the head. I'm going to do it from this part here. And then maybe for the head, we can do like irregular little movements. Like he's just like, I don't know, looking around, being a little jittery little mouse or something like that. Maybe stop, then he starts again. Kind of decide however you want to do it. Now, the thing with the mouse is I want to make my mouse do all that stuff and also move across and go kind of like past the cat. So you might notice, I showed this already, but the mouse is in a group. All these different tracks are in a group. And because they're in a group, I can animate things inside the group, and then I can animate that as a whole. So if I go ahead and close my group, now I can animate that as one unit while there's like head moving and tail moving inside. So groups are really a powerful tool in Procreate Dreams that give you a lot of control over how things animate. So for my mouse moving across, I'm just going to do some manual keyframing. I'm going to start at the beginning, actually get out of performing mode, get out of performing mode, move my playhead to the beginning, tap it, move and scale. So now I've got a starting keyframe and I'm going to start my mouse off screen like that. So that keyframe is set to be there. And then I'm going to go a couple seconds. Oops, I think I have two keyframes in there. Sorry, guys. Accidentally didn't have it exactly. So the reason this happened is because I didn't have my playhead exactly at the beginning. I actually had it over a little bit. And by default, wherever you create your first keyframe, it will place one at the beginning by default. So I'm going to tap and hold this bonus one and choose delete. So now I just have that first keyframe and it's set to be right here. So you can delete keyframes. That's good to know. Okay, so now I'm going to scroll a couple seconds down. Where's my time? Okay, so a couple seconds down. You can see it's 2 seconds right here. So I'm just like a couple seconds down on my mouse. There we go. And I'm gonna make sure my playhead is in the keyframe track. See, this is on the content, it's a little clapboard. This is on the keyframe track, it's a little transformation symbol. And then I'm gonna tap it to create a new keyframe. And then I'm gonna move my mouse across. So I can, oops, tap it, move it across. And if you put another finger down on the screen, it'll actually snap, which is pretty cool. And then I'll make it stop right there. And then, so now it's moving down like that and stops. And then I'm gonna leave him there for a little bit. Just move my timeline, move my playhead down the timeline. He's staying there. Create a new keyframe. So these are the same, so he's staying in that same spot. And then I'll go down here and add another keyframe. Tap, and I'll make him going off. There we go. So I've just put a finger down and it's snapped in a straight line. So now let's see how that looks. There he is. He kind of stops and then he keeps going. He probably could stop longer. I'm imagining like seeing the cat and be like, oh no, and then like keep on going. So you can also adjust your keyframes. If like I want him to stop longer, and now he goes. If I want him to rush off faster, I could make this one closer. So you can kind of like play with the timing of things by moving these keyframes around on your timeline. Okay, that was the last little bit of animation for this piece. So let me go into full screen view so we can get the full picture. So this is a really good feature. You're gonna take 4 fingers. I like to use these 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and tap. And that's gonna go to full screen view so you can view your movie in all its glory. And then if you tap, you'll get these little controls down here at the bottom. I'm gonna tap to go all the way back and then press play. And then we have all our little animations going on. We've got our plant, we've got our clock going around, although I think I accidentally undid that one, so it's not going anymore. But this is swaying, we've got our light flickering, our cat kind of just breathing, and then of course our little mouse going across like that. Really fun.
This is so fun, Lisa. Looks amazing.
Yeah, and it's really like simple things that you can just like this was a really nice, static piece of art, but now that I've just added these kind of like subtle movements, it's really something special. And that's what I love about working in Procreate Dreams and animating, is I get to take my work to that next level, which is really fun.
Yeah, it really adds, it brings so much life to the illustration. It's super cool.
Yeah, it
Awesome.
does. Somebody was asking, how do we get to full screen? And that's a 4-finger tap. So I like to do, when I'm holding my Apple Pencil, it's easiest to use pinky, ring, middle, thumb, those 4 fingers, and then tap and get back out like that. So that's a really handy feature to know. And then I wanted to show you guys just kind of a way that you can take this whole thing further, just to kind of inspire you. So I'm going to go back to my movies, and then I'm going to open this one here. And this one actually has some audio, so I'm going to turn my volume up real quick, and hopefully you guys can hear it. I'm going to go to full screen view. Okay, let me know. We ready? Okay, so let me go ahead and play that. So yay, I really love that one. So for that, I did a few different things, but one of the biggest differences was adding the audio. So I have some music in the background, I have sound effects, I've got the clock ticking, the cat purring, the little mouse squeaking. You can add audio to your Procreate Dreams works, which just like the animation takes it to the next level, and then audio just like takes it to a whole nother level. And then the other thing that I did for this one was I added these camera movements. Let me turn my volume down now. Okay, I added these camera movements, and all I did was put all my animation tracks into a group, and then I just keyframed that group like kind of moving across like that. I think I even like performed it. I just like dragged this whole huge thing across to create these camera movements. And that way I was able to take that scene, which is a nice like scene, nice illustration, and really turn it into like a narrative, like a little story. So that's something else that you can do. And then the other cool thing about doing this is I was able to put it into kind of like social video friendly format by creating these different camera movements. So that's another thing that you can do with Procreate Dreams.
So cool. Really, really cool to see. And awesome
Thanks.
how to like perform the camera movements. Such a fun way to use
Yeah, I've also done like
animation.
camera shake where you just like perform like and you can make like the camera shake if something like explodes or something like that. So you can there's so much that there's so much that you could do with Procreate Dreams. The possibilities are endless, but it's good to start out with like simple things and then you'll just find like your creativity grows and grows the more you learn about this. You learn about a new way to animate and you're like, "Oh, I could do that and now I can do this." And you just kind of like slowly build over time and it's so much fun.
It is amazing. Cool.
So if you wanted, I wanted to show you real quick if you wanted to export your animation before we wrap up. Let me go ahead and open it back up again. So to do that, you're gonna tap here where it says your movie name, and then you're gonna go to share, and then you can choose video right there. There are other options, but we're gonna choose video. And then it will export, and then you'll get that little pop-up where you can like airdrop it to your phone, save it to your files, do whatever you want with it after that. But that's how you would export your video if you'd like to share it. Cool. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So I think we're gonna have just a few minutes. I'm gonna try to, I saw some questions that were repeated a bunch, so I'm gonna try to revisit those. So with that, a
I
lot
just
of
wanted
people,
to share this real
oh yeah,
quick. Sorry.
oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah, 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 totally. Go for it.
This is I'm putting the finishing touches on my Procreate Dreams course, which should be coming to Skillshare maybe today or tomorrow. I'm right at the finish line, you guys. It's been a lot of work. I've been working on this for, well, months, really planning it in production for several weeks now. So this is the thumbnail. So you guys should, I don't know if we're gonna notify you or something, but you can always follow me on Skillshare and you'll get notified when I publish a class. So that's probably the easiest way to like know right away when this comes.
We are so excited for this class to come out. Awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
so let me know what questions you have.
yeah, so a few people asked about easing. That's come up a
Yes.
bunch, just like going over how you did easing in the animation.
Yeah, I'm going to show you with a new thing because it's easier to demonstrate. Ooh, not that brush. Hold on. Sorry, guys.
Well, now everyone you'll get to see something from scratch, which is fun too.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm in draw and paint mode now. Okay, Blackburn. I'm in draw and paint mode, and so I'm just going to draw a little dot, and then I'm going to add a keyframe. Well, this is a really long project. This is like 30 seconds. So I'm going to go to like 2 seconds, tap, move and scale. So now I've got my two keyframes. They're both in the same position. So I'm going to move this one, put my playhead over it, and then I'm going to put it over there. And now it's going across. And you'll notice that it's like starts, oops. Hold on, let me zoom in so it'll repeat. The cool thing about the timeline is if you zoom into a section, it'll just repeat that section. See? So you can see it starts out slow and then it goes fast and it ends slow. So if you wanted to edit that easing, that amount of easing, you can tap in between two keyframes on a keyframe track, so in the gray area, set all easings, and then you can choose one of the options. Linear is just a steady rate of motion. Ease in will start slow and then go steady. Ease out will start steady and then end slow, and then ease in and out will do both. So now my ball is steady and then it just kind of stops abruptly because it's not like slowing down to a stop. So that's easing.
Cool. There's easing everyone. That's a great. It's
Yeah,
to see it
there's
with
a
the
lot of
basic
like, if you're
ball.
new to animation, there's a lot of like new things to learn, and easing is one of them.
Totally. And then someone asked if it's possible to perform two different like actions on the same item. So
It
like
is.
it is okay. Like the tail of the cat, could you have two different things happening via performing?
Yeah, like I could do that, and then I can well, actually here, it's easier. I can make this scale. Oops. Okay, so I made it scale, and then I can go back and I can make it move. So it's now moving and scaling at the same time. So you can apply multiple things at once, just as long as it's not like two moves. Like if I were to move this again, go back and move it again, it's just going to obey that now because they're the same exact thing. Like I can't move it in two different ways, but you can apply different things. Yes.
Awesome. That's very cool. So you can add lots of different elements to your performing for one item.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And I have other examples of my work. Like this was from my course, this little breezy palm tree. So the leaves, we got a bird flying across. These little palm fronds, they have a warp applied to them, and they actually have two warps. So I did one warp, and then I went back and did another warp. So they're really like, and then I applied a rotate over that. So that's how I did that. And then we've got a little bird flying across. So this one is in my course, and you'll learn how to animate this little scene.
awesome. So everyone, Lisa's class is gonna have that one if you want to go into details on that punch.
Yeah. And then here's another one that we're doing in the class, leaves falling down, tumbling. So this is a rotate and then move. So exactly with the ball that I just showed you, that's how I made those leaves.
Cool.
But I'll show you more in
Rotate
the course.
and movement at the same
Yeah.
time. Wow, it's so cool. It looks so realistic.
Yeah. And then I do have like some other like Procreate artwork that I brought like when once I like learned how to use Dreams, I like went through my whole Procreate library and just like found things that I thought could use a little bit of motion. This one was just like I did a little frame by frame to kind of make the water kind of wiggle, but then it was just like a keyframe back and forth kind of movement. So let me see what else I have. This little spaceman is really fun. All the legs and this little tube, they're all the anchor point rotate. That's what it is. And then I have this like sky kind of like moving around in the background. That was a really fun one.
Wow, so
And
fun.
this is another anchor point rotation. And I performed his little like choppy claws and the eyes moving back and forth.
These are so fun.
Yeah. Um,
Someone asked a few times about the like shadows with the animation. Like, I guess I just saw some shadows in the pool lady. Like, can you add shadows that like come and go as the thing
Yeah, so I
moves?
have the shadow is like a blend mode, so that's why it's kind of transparent, but they're all together as kind of one thing. Like, remember how I said you could group things together? So it's grouped together, so it rotates kind of at the same rate. This is probably not realistically how a shadow would move, but it works. It works for this.
Yeah, I think it looks great.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then a few other questions. So people were super excited to see the sound and the camera movement in the one that we worked on today.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you have a moment to just kind of high level show
Like
how
kind of
you
talk
went
through
about
it.
doing those two pieces, the sound and the camera movement.
Yeah. So this one has a lot of sound tracks, not soundtracks, but sound tracks. So you can drag and drop sound into your timeline, and then you can also like adjust the levels and things like that by adding keyframes for levels. So you can have sound kind of fade in and out, which is how I did that. But I want to show you the camera movements. So I have this group, and inside that group is essentially all of our layers. So here's our thing. And I haven't shown how to make groups, so I can show that really quick. So this timeline edit mode, which we haven't really used, you can tap that. And when you draw with this, you'll see like a red line, which is pretty cool. But this is how you can select content. So if you were to draw a line over things, now you'll see they all have like a red border around them, and that means they're all selected. So you'd essentially just select all your tracks, tap and hold on one of them, and then you can choose group. And now all of that is one group that I can just animate. If I get out of edit mode, I'll just do it really quick on this. I would just make it like really big and then like start it here. And then I could perform it. You could keyframe it or you can perform it and just kind of like go across like that, whatever's easier for you. And now we have a camera movement. Like it's pretty simple once you get the hang of things. Anything else about that piece? I think kind of what I did there. So
Yeah, no, it's super cool. And everyone, if you, yeah, there you go. For the camera movement, that's how it's set up, and you can go ahead and watch the recording too.
yeah.
For that. Um, And let me just check if there's any others. There's a lot of small questions, but I'm gonna save those and encourage everyone to watch the recording because a lot of the little more technical questions were covered. And we're gonna send out a lot of resources that should cover your more specific technical
Yeah.
questions.
And then my course, like I do go really slow and I explain the concepts of things and like just kind of like really giving you like a high level of what all these different kind of like terms and concepts and features, and there's so much that you can do with it. So I cover lots and lots of stuff in that course.
Yeah. Yes, so definitely come to Skillshare for Lisa's recorded for like the filmed class. It's going to be awesome. We're super excited. It's going to answer more of your questions, and yeah, it's going to be a learning process for everyone. But hopefully, you're feeling inspired about what's possible in
Yeah.
Procreate Dreams. And before I do our closing slides, Lisa, last question for you
Yeah.
is what would you say you're most excited about for this app? Like how will this app change your workflow as an artist and a creator?
Well, I feel like it already has in so many ways. Like whenever I draw anything now, I always kind of have in the back of my mind like, ooh, how can I make this move? Like, and then I kind of like cater what I create to kind of like support that. But yeah, it already really has. And it's allowing me to create artwork that's just so much more engaging than just like a static piece. So that's really exciting to me. And then the other really exciting thing to me, because I'm a teacher, is like I just can't wait to see what people start creating once they kind of like get over that first little hump of like learning that what this stuff does and what it is, and just seeing all the amazing creations people are going to make. I feel like it's just going to change the landscape.
Yeah.
So really exciting.